Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. By now we've all seen the news about Venezuela. I'd like to share with you all, when I approach a situation like Venezuela, I don't start with headlines. I start with history and with structure. I listen to historians and also strategists, economists. I pay attention to what people are saying and what they're not saying. It's so important too. And what history has shown us. I look to both sides of the argument to understand what's really driving the events under this Venezuelan surface. When that same logic repeats across decades, then I find that clarity forms. So I'd like to invite you to take a journey through history with me and the current reality in Venezuela. Venezuela didn't become poor by accident. Venezuela became poor because it was enriching others. By 1929, the Venezuelan nation held the second largest oil reserves in the world. Actually, only the United States had more. But the oil wasn't the Venezuelans in the meaningful sense of being theirs. Rather, Shell, Standard Oil, and Gulf Oil controlled almost the entire domestic market of Venezuela. Venezuela sat on the oil, but it couldn't touch it, it couldn't price it, and it couldn't even direct it. During World War II, by 1942, nearly 8% of Venezuelan crude fueled the British tanks. In fact, many historians share that Venezuela helped win the Allied victory. Its people stayed poor though. And then we have decades passing, oil flowed outward, wealth didn't flow back to Venezuela, infrastructure lagged, inequality then hardened. The resource existed there, but the sovereignty didn't for the Venezuelan people. Then that actually changed in 1999 when Hugo Chavez rewrote the Constitution and declared something really quite profound. The oil belonged to the people, not foreign firms, not private intermediates or offshore interests, rather it belonged to the people. But in 2002, a coup had occurred. A shadow government was placed, but the coup failed. The government didn't fall, and the people, they still remained vigilant. The structure held, but from that moment forward, the conflict actually shifted. Tanks were replaced with leverage, and sadly markets were replaced by military force. And then by about 2019, billions of dollars in Venezuelan assets were frozen overseas, which produced economic pressure and replaced with invasion. Trade restrictions had tightened and financial access narrowed for the Venezuelan country. Oil wasn't removed from the ground, it was actually removed from its system. And then we're up to current day, January the 3rd. President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores are seized and taken to the United States. According to my research, what I found is the Venezuelan people it wasn't only about democracy. They are fearful, and we must hold this situation with care. The Venezuelan people have suffered more than we can imagine with their food shortages and the oppression, poverty. People were and still are fearing. Donald Trump's administration is demonstrating what I found to be control over key strategic regions in the Americas. There are three hemispheric pillars that I want you to take note of: North America, South America, and the Arctic corridor. Now, if you recall, 2 years ago, I shared a video about Trump's desire to buy Greenland from Denmark. Greenland is not for sale. Denmark and Greenland will not have it. For Trump, this is actually about minerals, and it's about early warning systems and Arctic shipping lanes, opening trade routes to control Greenland and to control the north, as well as Canada being in the north, and South America. Also the energy and the food. Why Venezuela matters is because it's oil resources. It's because the middle corridor of Panama and the Caribbean, those trade routes control that area, and Canada anchors the north, Venezuela anchors the south, whereas Greenland locks the top. Together they all inform a containment arc, dear people. The goal, according to experts and strategists, is control. That's what it's about from what I have seen in my research. It limits rivals, it secures supply lines, it's maintaining influence across that hemisphere. This was never only about one person, Maduro, and it's not only about socialism. Rather, it's about resources, trade routes, future leverage, and of course dominance across the Americas. To what? To extract their resources. Today, China dominates large parts of Latin America, also Iran and Russia, although Russia is now too busy, excuse me while I position myself, with Ukraine. So we'll put Russia aside. The issue was never only about oil. It was the pricing of oil, the control of those trade routes. The pricing of the oil is outside. That pricing outside the dollar system actually threatens the financial structure of the United States. That's where Trump's America has invoked the Monroe Doctrine. You may have heard him speak about that. The Monroe Doctrine began in 1823 as a warning, not as a warning, not as a law. It contained and was constructed in that Russia will be for Europe and the United States will be for the Americas, especially over the Venezuela area. He's asserting hemispheric control, he meaning Donald Trump, over China, Russia and Iran, who hold a present-day investment and positioning in Venezuela. This also creates a pathway to confront Iran, as I've seen with my investigative research. If you followed my work, you'll know I've shared before that the Iran situation isn't over, far from over. This is history repeating itself. And in court, Nicolas Maduro has pleaded innocent, his wife has pleaded innocent, and they still consider themselves a president, the president over the land, even though there's the vice president sitting in at the moment. Venezuela calls it kidnapping. A lot of the people in Venezuela call it kidnapping, whereas there are multitudes upon multitudes who have shared that they feel free now. This is about freedom, but fear exists, and the Venezuelan people are divided, and they're fearful, and rightfully so. Because why? They've seen regimes fall through witnessing other nations, example, Libya, Iraq, and they've seen that toppling regimes doesn't always mean and bring success. It can bring even worse dynamics to a country. When we follow history, we really begin to realise that it develops in us clarity, and that clarity may show us what this situation or others have always been about, and we'll do ourselves a lot of justice if we pay attention to that. I know I do, and I know I do because it has taught me to understand how situations may evolve, how to keep observing, how to keep track, and really weigh up what this is all about. Yes, there are different dynamics to this, and it's complex. You've got the socialism dynamics, you've got the trade route dynamics, you have history almost in play when we see the Venezuelan, as we saw the Libyans, as we saw the Iranians, as we saw the Syrians. And what happened? It wasn't successful. History really can be our teacher. For me, upon this investigation, I really think it hones in on controlling the Americas. That's what I have extracted from my research, from listening to historians and these experts. These are experts, strategists, war strategists. Another thing that has come to the forefront is how on earth was Maduro, how was he captured so easily? The fact of the matter is he has hundreds of guards, circulating him. He has the police force, the intelligence. How did it all slip through? Other strategists are saying it looks all too a bit sus. And yes, we're going to get that. Many theories will come out. That is standard. But that is not always a bad thing. It grants critical thinking. That's what it does. It grants critical thinking. And I don't think coming up with theories is a bad thing. I like to stick with the facts, but I understand people who come up with theories. I don't begrudge them for it. I like to take that into thought and dissect it. But ultimately for me, I first start with history and then go on from that to verify the current situation, the dynamics, the complexity, because it's always in situations like this, it's complex. It's not only just one thing. So I really do hope that you will take this into consideration. And keep in mind, the Venezuelan people, they're suffering. We just hear it as news. But dear viewers, they are suffering and they are fearful. And Trump's administration is far removed from innocent. I have my thoughts. I won't disclose them fully. I have shared quite a bit with you. But I will leave that and let you verify with what you've heard me share. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. If you feel to, I would encourage you to like and subscribe. Please feel free to share any of my work, writing pieces, being in posts, articles are in my post section of YouTube. And also, when I share with my viewers, welcome to my channel, please know that I mean my YouTube channel, because I share over a multitude of platforms. So I hope this has given you a bit of insight and clarity into how I am looking into the Venezuelan situation and how I look into most situations, topics, people, current events. It's through the lens of history and then going forward from that. Thank you for watching. Until the next time, I shall bid you au revoir.